Gate Racing. Yeah, we've got some nice crowd here. There's one renegade standing. Come inside and we'll see. Hello, Mr.
Just hope you didn't swap IDs again.
Welcome to Richards Bay. We're sitting here with Neville Loosemore. He's our chairman of womza. He helps with all the rules. He helps with decisions happening around. And welcome, Neville. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Ismail. Thank you very much.
Neville, what we'd like to talk about is a lot of rules, regulations. How did the Hot Rod Tour get to where it is today? Who started it? Just give us some background to where it started, who started. Who was the first person who said, let's do something?
Ishmael's quite an interesting question. It was started probably as far back as 2015 when Tim Stevens actually spoke to me and said, let's do something big for the hot rods. So we started with the first speed weekend at the Rock that particular year, and from there on things grew. The following year Tim said, let's bring in the world champion, and Dean Wood from the UK agreed. And so in 2016 we were lucky enough to have Shane join us, Shane Murphy that is. He came and raced, and that was sort of the start of where things worked out. At a point then we were in discussions, Rudy and myself, and Stefan Weideman also came and gave us some suggestions. And for the 2017 season we decided to start this sort of tour, which we did, and from there on it's just grown and grown.
And when it started, how many cars did you start off on?
Our first leg that we ran at Polokwane, we started off with 18 cars, which at that time was a record for the time. You know, we were having meetings where there were 6 or 7 cars racing at the most.
And when you guys realized there's only, the hot rods were dying out. That was dying out. It was almost dead at the stage where there was no hot rods at the race meeting anymore. And surely someone had to say, guys, come on, let's get something together. Who took that initiative first? Just to realize that it's dead now and we need to do something about it.
I think probably the person that took the initiative was myself, because I realized that we sat with cars that were worth a lot of money, but they were standing. There was no meaningful sort of motor racing taking place at the time for us. We had womza, we also had MSA, so we had rival factions, which was causing a bit of a split in the sport as well, because some organizations wouldn't let you ride at other organizations. So at a stage it just became a situation where I thought, you know what, either we cut it short or we move it on. And I was lucky when we discussed it at the time to have had buy-in from some pretty influential people, Rudy being one of them. Rudy was very instrumental in coming across with ideas, supporting the series, giving us the backing. And then at the time we also had Niku Forster, who was the first National Hotrods Tour champion. He obviously hadn't won it yet, but he was very supportive of the idea. And Niku is a very influential person. A lot of drivers follow Niku, and because of that we just generated this following. We also had Stefan, who at that stage was promoting the racing at Polokwane, and he brought along his own brand. Stefan is from a dirt background, so whilst at times his ideas were probably different to what we had, they actually helped us in growing because we were able to see things from a different dimension. You must remember, Rudy and I had raced together since 1992. We'd raced against each other, so we pretty much knew each other's style and each other's way of thinking. And so instead of being sort of a stereotype, that's how it's going to be done, Stefan added this dimension. And I must also add, we had the enthusiasm of Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michelle's enthusiasm is incredible. I know on the day she gets a bit emotional, and from time to time it gets a bit worse. But behind the scenes, it's all very well for us to have had these ideas, but it was at the end of the day we said, right, let's do this tour. Michelle organized it, and you know, that's what she does best, and she was able to do it, and she's had a lot of help. But I think that most people don't realize that the effort behind arranging these events, the effort behind this whole process is huge, and we spend many a night till 10, 11 o'clock at night working on ideas and working on stuff. And in life, Michelle's a go-getter. She'll never say, it can't be done. You just give her a task and she does it.
But now, Michelle is a mom of 3 children. 3, eh?
That's correct.
Now, how does this impact on her life? Running a household, driving a race car, managing the Hot Rod Tour, and I know she is so deep into it. Doesn't it affect her life, her overall life somehow? Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, you must add to that, you've got a bit of a difficult husband, I think. It does impact on her life, but you know, that's what 10 o'clock at night is designed for. We're very lucky in that our children have grown up alongside the racetrack. Jason, who's come up through the ranks, has been racing since he was 5. Bella, who's now in her 1660s, been racing since she was 7. So the 2 of them have accepted that that is our life. There's no family holiday to any venue where there's not a racetrack. A weekend for us is either at the racetrack, testing a car, or at a race meeting, racing the car. So because our life is very much like that, we've learned to accept that mom sometimes is busy with racing stuff, because on top of it all, having the amount of cars that we do, dad's also busy working on the cars, preparing cars. The strangest thing, of course, is that our youngest one, Jenna, she has no interest in it. She's just not interested in racing. She's not really interested in anything other than the social aspect around the tour. So obviously every now and then we have a family moment where I go fishing. So, you know, it's a newfound hobby, but every now and then we go and spend some time at the sea and catch some fish.
Oh, good. At least there is another side to you then. I thought you only know race cars. I wonder sometimes how you run your business, the way you're into the race cars, all heart and soul. But my question is this: do you think all that behind the scenes working for Michelle is maybe not helping her much in the races? It's taking away something where she could do better in a race, but worrying about all those other things around her. Don't you think it's disadvantaging her a little bit?
I think it's a huge disadvantage, because she has a lot of things on her plate, and as she jumps in her car to go and start an important race, she'll have somebody standing next to her car moaning about the points, or complaining because Willem Stolz, you know, didn't talk to him nicely and now he's upset about it. It's those type of things, and she copes with it in her way. But I definitely think that if she didn't have that type of responsibility, she would probably perform better racing wise. But to say that she does pretty well race wise, and there's, you know, the odd event, and we saw in December, which was not a tour event, that even Sefi said that, wow, she really went well. So she has good moments, and you know, to date she's in the top 10 in points ever scored in the tour. So, you know, I think that's quite an achievement on its own already.
And then it goes back to you now. You're now the chairperson of womza. So you sit there at the top. Every event, every problem has come to you. Every problem at an event comes to you. And then you're a racing driver as well. And then you got your son racing with you, and your wife racing with you. I would think it's a disadvantage. How does it impact on you?
Well, I think perhaps you should speak to all the guys and see if I can get an extra 10 points a night because of it. You know, because
maybe you should stop. Maybe you should stop and sit there and help the rest and get Jason going faster and Michelle going. No, Michelle must also just be behind the scenes. Actually, everybody says you got old, and that's why you're slower.
Possibly, you know, they can say that. I mean, it's true. We've all got old. You know, I believe I'm young enough to be fast, but I believe that I'm probably wise enough to be clever, and we luck in for a win every now and then. But
the guys does say that Neville's getting older, but we're still scared of him in the long run. He's someone to worry about. So don't worry about the whole story. They all say that.
Look, I know it's the old story of the tallest tree catches the most wind. And I know that on a race meeting there's 40 hours following me. last year when we raced in Richards Bay, we had a situation where we were practicing on really old tyres, and we had a bit of a mapping problem with the car, which we sorted out pretty quickly. And on the Saturday morning, I decided not to put on the better tyres until the racing. I practiced the whole weekend on old tyres. And when I did the last run on old tyres, and I was about probably as much as a second off the pace, it was incredible to see the people up and down the fence, all with their stopwatches out. Okay, there must have been probably 20, 25 stopwatches out. And the amount of sort of high fives there were, you know, Neville's off the pace, Neville's off the pace. The net result is that we put in a lap good enough for second and ended up winning the final. So, you know, it's all about the mental aspect of it. But, you know, balancing the whole thing between racing in the sport, running a business, being involved in the Hot Rod Tour committee, and then obviously being involved in womza, it has its challenges. And I think the biggest secret that I've learned is to be decent to people. I've learned to treat everyone with respect. There are times when I'm sitting at a race meeting wondering why, you know, I don't really need to worry about this guy's problem when I've got my own problems. But you know, if you deal with each guy's problem, you're able to solve things, and at the end of the day, sometimes you actually fix something without making a big issue of it. And so it's just something you learn, you know. It's
talking about that, you know, just handling people respectfully. Okay, you know what, now we're going back to church, now we're going back to mosque. I think that's where it should all be taught. Send everyone back to basics. You know, and CF said to me, he took Neville back to basics, not Neville, Rudy, back to basics, and Rudy just got faster again because he just started losing the plot actually, or doing the wrong things eventually. So it's about just going back to basics, and basics in life is respect. Before there's anything else, there's respect. And if you can learn to deal with people with respect, it calms you as a person and it helps you do the right thing. Because if you're just arrogant and don't care about other people's feelings, you'll say what you want to, and it hurts their feelings, and then they fight with you. And that's where everything sparks up. There's something I want to say about oval track racing. People always say it's a hooligan sport, right? So my idea of it is nobody in the long circuit, quarter mile drag racing, any sort of racing that's not oval, they don't know how hard oval track racing is. I think it's the closest form of racing, the hardest form of racing. I don't think there's anything as hard as oval track National Hotrods today in this country. It's so tight, competitive. 30 cars on a 400 track. So you got one car next to you, two cars behind you, maybe two in front of you, and you're sitting there sitting. It actually hypes you up so much that when you get out your car, you're hot-headed. Because it's hot-headed, the racing. Other racing, you have time to relax. So now, you guys sitting in those cars, to get out the car and relax must be the most difficult thing under the sun. How do you feel when you get out the car and you're not happy about something? How do you control yourself? Because you're the chairperson of womza. So you have to be an example.
Yeah, it's challenging at times. You know, if you go back and look at the sport, it's quite, the irony is crazy, because you take 20 or 30 cars that have more power than they need. You then put them on a track that's 300 meters long, and you put as many cars on that 300 meter oval as you can possibly get. You then put a wall around the oval. You close the gates and you tell these 30 guys to go as fast as possible to beat each other, to win. You're not there just to ride where you are. You tell the guy, you're starting 8th, if you can win the race, get to 1st. So inevitably, there's going to be issues. There's going to be contact, there's going to be a bump, there's going to be someone spun out. There's going to be a whole lot of incidents in the race. The race finishes and your feeling is based on your achievement. I won in Richards Bay and I could have run around the track for 5 laps and I wouldn't have felt tired. In Vereniging, I finished the race 7th in the final and I was just utterly depleted. And it's all a reflection on how well you do. From my side, there are lots of moments where you are cross in the car, you have it, you get a bump, you get pushed out, you think you were right, you think you were wrong. But I also think at times having to fulfill a role in womza and being in a role model role, even if it's not just in womza but in life, because I'm now no longer one of the new racers on the block, I'm now one of the veterans, so there are a lot of youngsters that always look up to you. And I think what that's done is it's given me a calmness, because I've got to a stage now where I've learned to leave what happens on the track. I've also learned that whatever I do on the track must never break up a friendship. Now, I don't believe you can be big friends with the people you race against, but I also I don't want to destroy it. I don't want to physically stick someone in the wall and do it on purpose. There have been moments where it's been accidental, and I'll be the first there to help the guy. So in a way, it's a blessing in disguise, because you get out the car and everybody's all huffy and puffy and they're screaming and stuff, and you've got the dads. I mean, dads are the freaking dads are the most exciting thing in the sport, because they're all there, they're all grumpy, they're all standing around, and they all got their own opinion. I know it because I've watched my own son race, and I have the same thing about it. And you listen to their stories, and to be honest with you, I take it all with a pinch of salt. I get out of the car, and 99% of the time I moan about we're not quick enough.
So maybe you should bring in a new rule now that says after the race, 5 cool down laps. So everyone has time to cool down in their cars and then come off. It might work.
It might.
It might work.
It might work, but you know, knowing the guys like I do, those will be the retribution laps. That will be where you settle the scores. You know, you cannot catch a guy that pushed you out. But you know what? Honestly speaking, you've got to realize, every competitor has to realize there is contact. It's aggressive. It is the most competitive series of motorsport in South Africa. Of that, I have no doubts. I've just been at the Extreme Festival at Swartkroops Raceway, or the Passion for Speed, I think it was called. And good racing. Don't get me wrong, I raced there myself, but it doesn't have that intensity, and that's what people don't get from the racing. The cars we race are all technical marvels. They are all stuff that are designed. The days are gone where you kick out the windows and put in a roll cage. You're now dealing with setups. You're dealing with just stuff that you cannot imagine. The new trend is fuel injection, so everybody's moving on. So it's technically advanced, it's competitive, and it's also popular, because all the competitors want to race. Nobody's been forced to come and race. We're not saying to any competitor, you have to do this. And the grids keep swelling, much to my surprise. I actually thought we'd see the grids reduce a little bit.
No, people were hoping for that. There was so much people, even the drivers that's driving in the series, you had so many of them saying, this is going to fall apart, because it all goes around what you say. And actually, it just grew and grew. You know, there's a lot of say. I have to question you on all the hearsay that I get.
Yeah, sure.
People think you set the rules around your brain for your cars, and there was a time when you were winning, everyone was just saying everything's going your way because you're the ruler of the racing, the hot rod racing. And but as things went on, you could see other guys are stepping up again. The rules were falling into place, and when it was falling into place, it was working, and that's why it's growing. Don't you think so?
100%. I believe that we have good and reasonable governance. I believe that we, from time to time, probably have the odd mistake or two that we could deal with better. There's a lot of communication taking place between senior people. It's not just Neville's decision.
So who makes the rules? Did you take womza's rules and carry on with that? Or did you make your rules, or who made the rules for the National Hot Rods? Where does that come from?
Okay, I'd like to start this by answering. If I made the rules, I'd ban Honda engines. Okay. So
all established, it's because of Rudy's age.
Yes, no, I understand that. So we let Rudy run the Honda and give me 10 points for every race. Then we're fine. No, honestly, the construction rules are a derivative of the old rules that came from the old NORC days. Then it became MSA. Then we had the formation of womza that adopted a very, very similar set of rules. And that's the actual class rules. The tour rules is the creation of a couple of us, myself, Stefan, Rudy, obviously Michelle. In recent times, we've had a lot of valuable input from Sefi, because he's very shrewd. He can see the loopholes and says, will tell us, listen, be careful of that because the guys can do that. And it's that creation. You know, there'll always be stories that the rules are built to suit me. And there'll always be stories that perhaps I get away with a bit more. But I believe your temperament in a car determines the type of punishment that you get. If you climb out of your car and you are aggro and screaming and ranting and raving and having a whole lot of issues, the problem is officials start to see that in a light. I've learned if you climb out the car respectful, humble, and you go to the official and they say, listen, let's have a look at this, and they have a look at it, it's all fine. Most times the 50-50 cases will actually turn in your favor. So I wouldn't see it as anything favoring me. I think it's my attitude that puts me in a positive light.
Alright, let's go back to your rules, regulations, everything. Now we have the English, alright, Dean Hood's Speedworth. We all looked up to them as they were better than us for many years. I know I drove with you guys and we all felt the English were better than us. How would you compare us to them? Although we got rotary engines and much faster engines than they have. How do you compare our series to theirs?
First of all, I have the utmost respect on the English series. I grew up watching videos of Barry Lee, George Polly, Duffy Collard, all the guys. I grew up watching those videos, and I've been lucky enough to have been overseas. I've been, I think, to 12 World Finals now, and I've been able to witness the English racing firsthand. I've also become friends with Dean, and over the years we've seen how they do things. And so our series is a strong reflection on their series. It's based very similarly around the same sort of principles, control tires, etc., regulations, and we move in the same direction. Obviously we have a situation where financially a rotary engine, a new rotary engine you can get for 50,000 Rand, but when you pay 12,000 pounds for a new Vauxhall engine, that's the equivalent of 220,000 Rand. So we've obviously got a few differences between our series and their series.
Don't you think it would be good for everyone to be on the same thing, for us to be able to challenge each other in a series or of some sort?
There's a school of thought that seems to think that the English cars would probably battle against our cars on power, but it wouldn't make sense for us to all of a sudden go to their power units because of the cost. So we are sort of, with our power units, we're probably putting out the best part of maybe 30-40 horsepower more with some of them. Obviously there's a few others that are a bit stronger. So I'll tell you this, I think the nice part about the English series is it's ultra competitive. It's very, very close. You start 15th in England, you probably finish 12th if you're lucky. In South Africa you can see a race where I think I hold the record from starting the furthest back and ending the furthest up. I started 18th and came second. And so I don't think that's possible in England, but I think it's possible here. And by that I mean that there's probably a slight difference between our fastest and our slowest cars, a bigger difference than what there is in the UK. And I think what that creates is it creates the interest, because the English racing is sort of follow my leader processional, whereas our racing, I mean, is anything better than watching CFU start in 10th position in a race? That first lap is crazy. I mean, you watch how it pass through the field, and when
there's one day I'll never forget, if we go back to Jason, it was in Polokwane. We just climbed on the outside and made a third lane. Was it Richards Bay?
No, it was Clarksdorp.
Was it Clarksdorp?
Clarksdorp in 2017, I think. And I think Rudy was busy on the outside of CFE. And Jason went on the outside of CFE and Rudy in one corner. I mean, I've never passed him on the outside of my life, and he did them both in one corner.
That, you know, something like that is for the books. That's things you don't forget. That's memories you don't forget. I never forgot it. I was COC at the time, and that was like, yo, you know, you sit there and like, OMG. And you know, it's awesome, and I don't think you'll get that excitement anywhere else. What do you think about this that we're doing now with our online channels, our TV production that we brought into it, and now we're concentrating also on bringing long circuit drivers to come and try it out? Not to really, well, look, obviously they're going to try and win it. But, you know, anyone that's competitive wants to win. Okay, so I'm hoping to bring in some top champions. Guys has won a few championships, like Adrian Dalton. He's a big name in motor racing. I want to bring him in to challenge the Hot Rod series, or give him a chance to find out how tough it is in this series. How do you think that will impact motor racing on a whole? Bringing someone from the quarter mile, bringing someone from the legends, just someone, a raw talent out the legends that has not done oval, and put him in the National Hot Rod. What do you think it will do for our sport?
I think the misconception is that oval track racing is a poor man's sport. It's an unfortunate thing, it's a stigma that lived with the sport, and I think it comes from the history when it was a bit rough and there was a bit the odd fighting and boozing in the pits.
Still fighting.
There has to be fighting. You know, a fight brings in the crowd. I mean, they actually promote it in NASCAR. But look, back, you know, I think that these drivers like Adrian Dalton are very good drivers in their own right, and I think they're going to come to oval and they're going to see that it's probably more of a challenge than they ever expected. I think they're going to realize that it's far more technical. It's not just a bunch of brandy drinking guys pitching up on a Saturday afternoon and racing around the oval and maybe having a fight at the end of the night. They're going to realize that it's technical. And so from that point of view, I believe it will put oval in a place where it deserves. You know, you will sit and you will watch a television program where they're showing you the Central African Rally Championship, and you've got a 1984 Datsun Stanza lying second in a stage as they race through the streets of Nairobi, and winning the rally you've got a S2000 car from 2014, and you sit and wonder how such an event deserves the footage that it gets, when we will take these cars, their price range is anywhere between, I would say, 350,000 to $1 million. You bring in one of these cars from the UK at the moment, you're looking at £55,000. So the value is there. On any given night's racing, we sit with anything between 10 and 15 million rands worth of equipment at the track. We did a calculation the other day that the guys are spending on average on a night's racing close to 280,000 rand on tyres, the joint cost. Now you have to imagine that if the guys all got together and they did that 8 times a year, could buy themselves a holiday home and share it. You know, it's the value, and that's what I think oval reserves, because there are financial opportunities through sponsors who have historically stayed away from oval because of its sort of stigma, but at the moment I think we are trying to recover it. And that's why you'll see the drivers, you've got, I mean, you'll see it, it's not just me. You look at Rudy, he's a fine example of a sportsman. He climbs out of his car. If he's controlled, he's rational, and you'll see it. CFE in the past was a bit hot-headed, strong, fast, but his temperament out the car has changed, and it's made him a better person. And these are all things that promote the sport.
Nice. All right, quick questions now. Okay. When I spoke to Jody Viana, when I interviewed him, he felt he was done in Pretoria, and I hope we can get the answer out back to Jody and his fans, to be fair to all of them. He feels that he got pole position through qualifying the fastest. You guys then took away his pole position and put him fourth in the race, or third or fourth, I can't remember. And you guys still gave him the trophy for fastest qualifier, because he took his trophy out and he showed me his trophy. Look here, I've got the pole qualifier trophy, but I didn't stand pole in the final. Please tell us what happened there.
Okay, it's actually very, very easy. But first of all, back to Jody. You know, Jody had stayed out of the tour for a few years, and we'd heard stories that they were saying that it's not going to be part of the Loosemore show, etc., etc. And finally, for 2018, they decided to take part. And they pitched up at the first event at Pretoria last year, very late. There'd been an accident on the road, and they'd been caught up in the traffic jam that resulted from the accident. And Jody arrived there probably with 5-10 minutes to spare before practice was over. So he took the car off the trailer, did a few laps, and that was it, ready for qualifying. And it was an incredible performance. Jody went into qualifying. I think he qualified in sequence probably 14th or 15th or somewhere there. But Jody went and he did the fastest lap. And at that stage, he was on pole position. Unfortunately, probably about 10 or 15 minutes after he qualified, while there were still 9 cars to go, we had a torrential downpour. The balance of the cars could not qualify. Now our rule says in the case where qualifying cannot be completed, the driver that sets the fastest time will be recognized as the pole position driver, as the fastest lap, for which he was recognized. But our rule said that we would then use the points to determine the grid positions for the final. I will also explain that Sefi hadn't qualified yet. I think Jason hadn't qualified yet. So there were a couple of top names that could possibly have beaten Jody. I'm not saying they would have, but that's why we reached a stage. You've got to understand, how do you build a rule around the fact that some guys didn't qualify, and that's the starting position for the final. So basically what happens is then qualifying gets declared null and void. The award is given to the guy who's pole, so he received pole position for that event.
And I think that should be taken away then, because you cannot give someone a pole qualifier trophy when the others did not have a fair chance to qualify. So it's like the balance of the guys are being done in, actually. So it should all just be taken away for the future. This are my thoughts. Just take it away. If there's a downpour, it's called an act of God, right? So everything falls away. So everyone must just forget about their qualifying, and now we go back to basic draws. Because we race, whether it's storming, whether it's not storming, only unless it's dangerous do we have to call it, right? So would it be right to say next time if something like that should happen, a trophy should rather not be given out?
I'd like to differ on that reasoning, and my reasoning is it was an official qualifying session and there was a record broken. Jody broke,
okay, so he broke the record.
Broke the lap record.
Okay.
If we declare qualifying null and void, at that stage we would have basically said to him, your record doesn't count. But he had actually gone and done it. So it's one of those situations where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, I think you'll have everyone with a different opinion on that.
Yes.
Right, what's the situation with you being the chairperson of womza? And I know people walked up to me to ask me directly, do you drive with the mic in your car to talk to the COC to tell him how to run the racing? This has been asked to me twice by top racing drivers, dads, friends, everything. And they came to me seriously and please tell us, did he talk to you when you were COC? And I just laughed and I said, yes, he did. And then they came again with the story that you are talking to Nicholas. And I just laughed. Clear that, please. Once and for all, let's talk about that. Oh.
Okay, honestly, I'm flattered. If there's anyone out there who believes that I have the ability to race my car and control everything from within the seat, then I should have been in Formula 1 20 years ago. There's no ways. There's absolutely no chance. I have an earpiece in my ear, which is the same earpiece every driver has. It's a receiver and we're spoken to by race control. I think if you heard me talking, you'd hear me panting off the time. So, you know, there is no truth in that story. People are welcome to come and have a look. They are welcome to go and discuss it with anybody. But, you know, people make statements without considering the logic about it. When you're in a race, you're in a race. You're racing the car in front of you and the car behind you. You have no vision on what's going on in the corner. Many times a race finishes, I get out and I'll say, what happened to him? I say, no, he got pushed in the fence by that guy. I say, oh, okay. I didn't see it. So to think that I could be in my car racing this thing as hard as as my ability allows me to, and then be talking and telling people what decisions to make is just crazy. But for the record, did I speak to you from the car?
If you had a mic there, I'd throw the stuff out my ears because it can't work. It just can't work. But no, you did not. I think this platform we're having now, where we can talk about things, bring it out, I think it'll be more fair to the public to actually know the real story, because I can ask you the questions that's being told out there that doesn't come back to you. And it's with every driver I'm doing it, you know. We're talking about incidents that happen so that people out there is not misled by the wrong things that are said, because 9 out of 10 times the wrong thing said, and then all their followers, all the spectators that love that person only hears what they got to say. But when they hear the truth of the matter, it becomes a different ball game. You actually score more followers that way, or the person who was truthful would score, you know, they score more followers all the time. So that's why I think for me it's bring it all out. Bring it out, we here, we talk about it. Anyone has questions, come to me, come to Neville, come to any racing driver, say you got a problem, and we talk about it so everybody can hear. What do you think about that idea?
No, I think it's how it's meant to be. It's how I actually thought it was. You know, there are always lots of stories. The stories are part of the game. You sit with social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, where there's a lot of banter going on. Who's the favorite for this weekend? And there's 20 people want Rudy to win, and 65 want Jody to win, and 55 want CFE to win. And you sit there sometimes as a competitor and I think, well, nobody thinks I stand a chance of winning, you know. But so be it. It's just how it is. And then, you know, I think it's, as long as it's within reasonable limits, I think the guys have to learn to speak to each other honestly. They need to just ask questions and say, listen, I'm not happy about this, or I'm not happy about that. But generally, I think the importance of this is that it opens these stories and gives people a chance to make an allegation or ask about something, and it gives other situations where it gives me or other people a chance to respond. And that's why I think it's helpful, and I think you get to know the person, you get to know who you're dealing with, you get to see it, you get to see the people in a different light. You know, if you looked at fans and popularity, you look at the sport now and you'll see that Jody's got a huge fan base, okay, and CFE's got a huge fan base, and Rudy has got a decent fan base, you know, and you know, I've probably got 2 or 3 fans, but they don't admit it because they're too scared to admit it. But you know, that's what makes, you know, that night in Richards Bay, when I won the race in Richards Bay, it was a question of jumping up on the fence, sort of sticking a hand up to everyone and saying, there, where are you? You know, all these people that said he's definitely going to win it, where are you? You know, it gives you that chance. But you know what? The next meeting, your feet get kicked from under you, and you're back to racing again. We all saw in Polokwane, Sefi was untouchable. It really was. And it was brilliant. And for the Rock, I think he was the overwhelming favourite. And he had an engine problem in the second heat, and that was him gone for the night. So it's
gone for the season.
It was. And what happens with that is it puts everything in perspective. It makes everybody realize that, you know, there are no guarantees in the sport. The only guarantee is that you've got to have a good time.
That's basically what it's about. And what we're doing here, everybody will be able to see behind the scenes and more. Our channel will be called National Hotrods Mzanzi. Our TV show will be aired roughly 4 days after we've raced the Saturday night. So I'm looking at the Wednesday or the Thursday night to have it played on TV on Ignition 189. Thank you very much.